Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Have you ever dreamed of moving to France? Well, this is the episode for you. We have all the details of what it takes to move to the City of Light. So welcome to the show, ladies. I'm so happy to have you on today. So many people are dreaming of moving to France and figuring France out. So you guys are the experts, but I always like to start with a little introduction of yourselves and talk about what brought you to France.
Sure. So, hi, I'm Zoe. I'm one half of the Expat Girls. And I've been living in France for about 14 years. Moved here just because I really loved the area and just thought I'm going to give it a go. And yeah, haven't left since. And since then I've really established my life here. I have a daughter, I own property, I've got a couple of businesses, and yeah, just we're both of us are now citizens of France. So yeah, we're very much established our homes here.
And my name is Vicky, so the other half of Ask the Expat Girls. I'm from England too, from Newcastle, and I also arrived in France around 14 years ago with Erasmus. So as a student, I was an English language assistant, fell in love with the region, same as Zoe. We live in a beautiful region in the southwest, and it's pretty perfect. So after my studies, I decided to stay. And like Zoe, that's the story. I had a child, did lots of work, worked in a lot of different sectors, and then, just decided that it was time to work for myself. And now we've had us Expat Girls for 3 years now, and it's going really well.
Fantastic. Yeah. What inspired you to start Expat Girls?
It started really because when we became pregnant, which was more or less around the same time, our children have 2.5 months difference in age. And we joined a group of on WhatsApp of expat mothers or mothers to be, and we just kind of noticed all the admin questions that were coming up and all the struggles with visa, all the struggles with citizenship applications, and we just thought to ourselves, gosh, there is a real need here for a sort of service to help people out. And because we've both been here for so long, we're both fluent in French, we had worked it all out ourselves. We'd kind of gone through everything ourselves, and we really felt like we could help other people do it, essentially.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think so many people struggle with moving here and figuring out all the paperwork, and a lot of people come here with no French at all, so it can be really tough. It's an unforgiving system for sure.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And what's one misconception people have about moving to France?
The bureaucracy. I think people appreciate the mode de vie, the lifestyle in France, and the work-life balance, and that is true. It's an amazing, lifestyle here. But yeah, it's not misconception. I think people know that extremely difficult, but honestly, it can be extremely overwhelming and stressful when, especially, after Brexit, and even for Americans and non-Europeans, just the fact that you have to, to regulate, to make sure that you can stay in here. You have to renew your visa every year. It's quite stressful to not have a solid, idea of if you're staying, if you can stay.
And also, I think people underestimate the fact that everything is in French. I think people perhaps assume that it will be simpler than it is not having a full grasp on the language. And I think probably that is the area that people struggle with the most. And it's funny because you'd assume that all our clientele are new people who've just arrived in France, but not all. We have clients that have been here for years and years and years and still struggle with the French side of things, because there is a sort of assumption that you will have a certain level after a while, and it's quite difficult for French people to work out most of the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many things we just don't think about and that are very different from our home countries. And the good thing I say about it to people all the time is like, no means maybe here. So like in the States or maybe even in the UK,
That's so
it's like
true.
no means no. But I feel like in France, it's like, hey, convince me, would you agree?
Or it's let's find someone else who says yes.
Yeah. Moving on. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that new expats make?
Do you want me to go, Vicky, or do you want to go?
Yeah, go. You go. I'll join in after. You go first.
Probably the biggest mistakes that people make, not providing all documentation that when it comes to certain procedures. That's probably the main thing, that people kind of just be like, oh, we'll just take what I have, and actually, it just causes huge delays in an already very bureaucratic system to not provide everything that you need to provide. That's probably one of the biggest mistakes that people make, and not fully grasping what is required from you. So assuming that things will be done, and that's the thing about France, everything really has to be chased up by individuals. Yeah.
People don't realize if it'll be fine. I'll put it off. Like, it's just such a terrible idea to put things off and leave it to the last minute, because the system is already slow. So if you are already applying for a visa renewal or something like that, it just slows everything down, and people do tend to wait till last minute because they sometimes feel a bit overwhelmed with the administration. So they put it off. But yeah, that's just get on it. Don't put it off.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for sure. And what are some things people should know about starting a business in France?
Starting a business in France is also not the simplest of things, but it's all about knowing how to do it. I mean, it depends. There's so many different types of businesses. If you're talking about being self-employed, it's in some ways it is the more simpler of procedures. It's called an auto-entrepreneur, and it's fairly straightforward in terms of forms you have to fill out and applications you have to send off. But there's lots of different types of business, types of business statuses in France. But the thing is with being self-employed is that you do also have to look after all your declarations, your income declarations, either monthly or trimesterly. So everything kind of falls on your back to make all of these declarations. It's another thing that if admin is not your strong point, this is something that is very heavily administrative. So.
Yeah, definitely. You have to really keep up with your bookkeeping, which for a lot of creatives and artists is not our strong point. I know.
I mean, it's more a habit, isn't it? You have to get into it's not overly complicated, because you just have to make a declaration every month or trimesterly online. But it's something that you have to keep on top of, because there are fees involved if you don't, declare it on time, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
So are there any benefits or protections for employees in France that might surprise people from English-speaking countries?
Oh, so yeah, I'm always been self-employed the whole time in France, but I've worked for many, many businesses. The thing that shocked me, I haven't worked in the UK for such a long time now, so I don't know if this does apply, but you can get 3 days paid take 3 days paid holiday to move house.
Wow.
And when you get married, you get 2 days paid. It's either 2 days or 3 days. When you get paxed, it's a civil partnership, you get, I think, another 2 days. What else do they give? I mean, going back to being self-employed in France, it's a hustle. There's a lot of social charges that we pay, but obviously we have the freedom that we love of being self-employed. But being employed in France, it just you feel very safe. I would say you're like you said, there's just a lot of benefits. Great holidays. There's also that law. Is it a new law? I recently looked at it. That your boss, it is illegal for him to contact you out of your work hours.
Yeah, that's like a new law I was reading.
Yeah, it's a new one. Yeah, and I kind of love it. I love that. It's really, in France, they do really keep work and life separate.
Yeah.
And I kind of appreciate that, but I think from the UK, we have a bit of a mindset, I'd like to get all my work done today so I won't have to do it tomorrow. But the French, they just, they will close their laptop at 5 p.m. They will, I love it.
That's the life of an employee. I wouldn't say necessarily the life of a self-employed person.
I love both. I love both worlds. But I do feel like in France, employees, they have a lot more benefits than, in my opinion, than the UK.
Yeah, I would say that for the States too. I think we're slaves in our countries.
And much more leave than in the States as well.
Yeah. We're not guaranteed any by law in America.
Gosh.
So it's crazy. And the firing and hiring process is very different there too.
Oh my gosh, that is just wild. It's nearly impossible to fire someone. Yeah, but that's great because that protects a lot of people. It gives you protection. But, if you are a business owner and you want to fire someone, it's also extremely difficult for business owners too.
They say in France that they call a CDI, which is, the permanent contract, is like gold dust because, they really are very careful who they hire. Yeah,
definitely. Because it's hard to get rid of you once you're there. It's like 3 months of trying to get rid of you. So talk a little bit about what the home buying process is like.
Okay. I have I've bought and sold a few places in France already. The way it kind of works, I mean, it's not so dissimilar to other countries. Not that I'm an expert in buying in other countries, but in terms of the process, it's essentially you look for a place, you find a place that you like, you give a quote. Once you've an offer. Once you've given your offer and the offer has been accepted, they technically should have to hold the place for you for a month. I mean, sometimes there's different rules on how long they hold it for, but generally speaking, it's a month. And within that month, that's when you sign the first, it's called a compromis, which is like your promise to buy. And this is the initial document where you're essentially saying that you promise to buy the place, here's the deposit, and there's like a 10-day cooling off period where either party can pull out. And it's usually during that period that also you make sure that you've got a loan from the bank if you need one. And there is also a clause that if a bank refuses you, that you can get out of the contract as well. And then it's generally once that 10-day cooling off period is passed, you've got a period of around 2 months where the notaires are getting everything ready, all the documentation ready, and then the final step of it is that you sign what's called an acte de vente, and this is the deeds. This is when you hand over keys and you pay the rest of the price of the property, and it officially becomes yours, or you officially sell it. So the process altogether takes about 2-3 months, if you're lucky, 2-3 months, depending on how quickly the process of getting a loan is. But generally speaking, that's the time frame.
Yeah, it's all very exciting. I think a lot of people think about property in France too. And there's some
Yeah.
very affordable properties out there. If you don't live in
Yes.
Paris, it can get very cheap.
Yes.
Talking
Yes.
like 20, 30,000 euros, you can buy a house. I mean, it might not be that nice, but you can buy a house.
I mean, it depends where.
Yeah, middle of nowhere.
In the coast where we live, you wouldn't get it for that price. But yeah, it depends where.
Yeah, middle of nowhere France, guys. And Vicky, talk a little bit about what it's like renting in France.
So I've rented, I haven't bought anywhere just yet, but yeah, I've rented a lot. And going back to landlords, they ask for a lot to rent. We always say, we've actually spoken about this, that it seems easier when you're relocating to France often to buy than to rent.
If you have
Because
the funds.
if you have the funds, obviously, because landlords, they want to see that you are stable and that you have proof and a proof of resources, blah blah blah. And obviously, when you arrive in France from America, UK, anywhere, you can't prove that history of stability. You know, that you can show them your bank accounts, but they really want to see. So all they really want to see is a fixed contract. So, for example, they always ask for a fixed contract, your last 3 French tax declarations. They sometimes ask for a guarantor, and it's quite tricky. It's quite tricky, yeah. And obviously because the people are renting, they are very, very so, for example, a landlord, he can't throw you out during the winter months, for example. Even if you haven't paid the rent, there's a law in France where the landlord is not allowed to put you on the street. Like, people that are renting are really protected, going back to employees. So the landlord has to really, really, really make a good decision that he's choosing the right person. And it is hard for new expats that arrive in France to get into the rental market as well, because they don't have any history to prove to the landlord that they are a safe bet.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's hard to, like you said, it might be easier to buy if you have the money.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes it isn't. Also, there is there is like a crisis when it comes to property in terms of rentals. It's actually very difficult to find property to rent. You know, there's lots of people on CDIs with jobs that struggle finding places to live just because there's a real there's not a lot out there. And actually it's more, well, things change obviously, but right now it's much more of it's a buyer's market. It's much easier to buy. Yeah.
So are there any common traps that people should avoid when it comes to buying or renting?
Common traps? Well, yes, actually. Something that we've helped people with recently is people that have come to France and want to rent. So they're looking for long-term rent, but not an Airbnb. And so because a lot of landlords, as Vicky went over, aren't accepting people that have no history in France, they've kind of done off the book rentals. And what that means is that the landlord charges an excessive amount to rent the property for a longer period of time, and it's kind of done off the books. Now, we can very much understand the attractiveness of doing something like that if you have the means. However, you do have to be careful, because what essentially means is that you are you're not covered if something goes wrong. You know, you don't have that sort of renter rights that you.
Well, yeah, they usually don't even offer a contract. It's all very much under the table. Yeah.
And what we've been recently helping someone with, when the landlord refused to pay back a deposit, even though there was no reason not to, but because it was off the books, he really has no way of getting that money back. So we would be very wary if people are thinking about doing something like that. Just be careful is what we would say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely great advice. I think people get desperate and they say whatever, but like you said, you're not protected.
Yeah.
And you've both successfully obtained French citizenship. Talk a little bit about that journey.
Well, it kind of started obviously for our situation because of Brexit. For me personally, I always wanted. I see my life in France for the foreseeable future, and it was always on my to-do list. But Brexit kind of pushed me in the direction of applying for French citizenship. So for our case, we applied for naturalisation par décret, so by decree, which means that you can apply after 5 years of residency. So I applied, I think it was around 8 years. So after 8 years of residency, and you just have to prove your entire life. You need to provide criminal records. You need to provide lots and lots of birth certificates, translations. It's a pretty hefty application. And then once you actually apply, you then have to go for an interview at the préfecture where they ask, why do you want to be French? Why? What are your intentions? How do you integrate into French culture, French life? And the whole process took around 2 years. But we were very lucky because we applied before the rules changed, and the rules have changed recently that you need to prove your French level.
Well, we did have to prove our French level, but it's just moved up a level.
It's moved up a level,
and now you have to also do a civic exam, which is the exam where they test kind of your knowledge of history and geography in France, and so, but we didn't have to do that. But we did. We both had very different interviews at the prefecture. Vicky's was much more based on facts, history, dates, and things like that, and mine was much more my opinion on things. So, for example, they asked me whether I really believed that France was a secular state, and they asked me whether I think that France has advanced in terms of feminism. So it was quite intense. My interview, mine lasted about 45 minutes, and Vicky's lasted like 20 or something.
Oh, mine was 20 minutes. I got asked, can you tell me 3 of France's favorite dishes? Wow. Mine was they were so different, but we don't want to put people off with the new language exam or the new civic exam, because it is feasible.
It's definitely feasible. There's so many resources, and we also we work with different French teachers, and we work with different companies that provide help for preparing for exactly this, the civic exam and the French language exams. And there's so many resources out there that it's definitely doable. It's just a very long process, and it's quite a heavily administrative process, and that's why people often seek our guidance, because you can get a bit lost as to what you need to provide. With certain countries with all countries you have to get certified translations for a lot of documents, and with certain countries you have to also get these documents apostilled. So it is quite overwhelming for a lot of people, especially if you have parents from all different countries and things like that. So that's why people seek our help, because we're just very familiar with the process now, having obviously helped a lot of people complete their citizenship applications, and we've done it ourselves. So we feel we kind of know what we're doing, and I think that that helps people feel more at ease when they're thinking about going for it.
So now that people have to take the civic test, do they still do that interview, or feel like the civic test should replace that interview?
It's not to replace it; they still have to do it.
Yeah,
It's just probably going to change. It'll probably be a lot less factual, and maybe they'll be asking more opinions. Maybe it'll be more like mine, but
like yours, I think so. Yeah.
But it's very dependent on who you have, what prefecture you're doing your interview at. There's no set rule. There's just guidelines of how to prepare for it.
And it's not, at the end of the day, it's not really an interview. He or she, they're there to kind of just find out really why you want to be French. It's not like, even if you do get some questions wrong, it's not a pass or fail. All they really want to see is, you can pass or fail, but they want to see just really how you've integrated.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does feel like an interview, but at the end of the day, it's just a long conversation in French.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
The heavier weight goes on the application,
Yes.
and you'd have to really screw up something badly for the interview to have a detrimental impact.
Yeah, definitely, that makes sense. And what is the best place in France that you feel is underrated after being here so long?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer.
Well, I feel like where we live, so the southwest, it's a pretty it's I think it's obviously very well known with French people, and like the surf scene, so it's very very surf, very popular for its surf. But for expats in general, they don't tend to come to the southwest. I think it's a little secret area of France, because a lot of expats, they go to like towards the middle, towards Bordeaux, Limoges, Dordogne, or more towards the southeast.
Yeah.
So Nice, and the southwest. It's a pretty. It's
most of the expats, I'm kind of, both of us are an exception in the rule, but most of the expats that
Paris, of course,
move to France, move to this area are coming with partners, with French partners. That is the majority that we meet. That is the reason why they came over here, and it's funny because it's so beautiful.
You got to keep it a secret longer, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, when we first arrived, there was really not many foreign people at all. It's just happened in the last maybe 5-6 years where there's been a big influx, but it's still it's a little secret.
Comparatively to the southeast or the Dordogne, certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone listening is thinking about moving to France next year, what are the first 3 things they should do?
First 3 things. Shall I go, Vicky?
Yes, please. Yep.
First 3 things, I would say check the eligibility. So there's certain requirements. If they want to work in France, if they want to come more on a visitor status, they need to make sure that they have the financial requirements. If they want to work, they'd have to make sure that they either have a job lined up or they have a business plan that's essentially demonstrating what kind of business they want to carry out in France, and that there's demand for it. So there's several different routes you can go down. So the first step would be the eligibility. Second step would be sort out your accommodation. That's super important in terms of whether or not you will be approved to get your visa approved. You have to have a stable accommodation. This doesn't necessarily mean a rental contract or to buy a property. It means just stable accommodation. Could be Airbnb or something, but you need to have your first 3 months of that covered. So that's the second important step. And thirdly, what would you say, Vicky? Probably the health insurance?
I was going to say health insurance, but also I was also going to mention, we just spoke about this recently with a client about just maybe even adding to the first point, choosing where in France you're going to live. We advised someone the other day, they fell in love with this like coastal area, when we said to them, have you visited the place during the winter? Because like France is so seasonal that it's really important. If you fall in love with somewhere during the summer months, it's really important to see what it's like out of season, because some villages, some areas are so sleepy and so quiet during the winter months. So we think it's super important to really do your research on, before you move, before making the huge relocation. Just really do your research on the place where you're looking to move to.
Sorry, I know it's probably out of the 3, but like in terms of an immigration point of view, once you're in France, a really important step is also validating your visa. That's another really essential step, because it essentially validates your right to stay in France.
Oh, I didn't even know you had to validate your visa. I had no idea how to even do that.
Yeah, it's mostly done online. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
We can help you later if you need.
Yeah, seriously, maybe I haven't done it. I've been here 14 years. I think they figured it out.
Oh, you'll be all right.
Oh, wow.
So thank you guys so much. Where can listeners reach out to you and talk about some of the other things you help people do?
They can find us on our website, which is just rcexpatgirls.com, or they can find us on Instagram or Facebook under our name as well, RC Expat Girls.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much. If you guys are dreaming of moving to France, check out Ask the Expat Girls. They can help you out with lots of things. And thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Merci.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.